Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, we are here on a modified nighttime version of Politics Done Right. And first, I think I better go ahead and get my green screen cleaned up some. Earlier today, we had some colorization problems. And what I'm going to do is take care of fixing those colorization using tonight's program, which is off schedule, to go ahead and fix these colorization problems. But I have something very important to discuss why I decided to come live right now, right here. As it turns out, John Bolton appeared on CNN, and you know what he did? He actually said, he pointed out something that I've been talking about for a long time. Let's see. He pointed out what I knew for a long time. It turned out that the United States, in fact, Maduro, in fact, Chavez in Venezuela, they were all correct. There was a concerted effort by the United States administration to overthrow the Venezuelan government. For those of you who don't know, Venezuela is one of the richest countries when it comes to natural resources on the planet. Venezuela is filled up with oil, more oil than any other country in the world, discovered oil than any country in the world right now. Most people don't know that. They think Saudi Arabia, they think the United States, they think all these different areas have more oil than Saudi Arabia. That isn't the case at all. All right, have more oil than Venezuela. That isn't the case at all. Venezuela is the country that has the most oil out there. So anyhow, it turns out that the United States is not going to allow a country who claims to be a democratic socialist republic, what they call created by Hugo Chavez's revolución, what is it, Bolivariano? Revolución Bolivariano, the Bolivarian revolution, okay? They weren't going to allow that. So therefore, anytime any government other than one pure capitalist government that's controlled by the plutocracy of whatever country, right? Whatever country has that plutocracy, that's who the United States government will always support. Because again, we can't make the mistakes, folks. And let me explain this before I get into the core of the program and also as I fix my green screen. Let me go into details about this. We as a country will not allow, we will not allow a country with as much natural resources and riches as does have Venezuela to exist as a democratic socialist republic, or to put in other parlances, a republic where the people gets control of the resources. You know why we can't do that? Because here in America, we are also a country filled with natural resources. And if Americans start to think correctly, they will ask themselves a very important question. Why is it that only a few people are able to profit from that oil and the carbon and the riches that the land that belongs to us all, government land? How comes just a few people can benefit from those resources? How comes only a few people get the opportunity to get rich from natural resources that were put there by the supreme being or whatever you believe in, but not by the extractors who then give shareholders those money. Why? That's the question. Why? Well, let me tell you why. That is because that is how capitalism works. That is how it actually works, and that's what's going on right now. So anyhow, the reason for the program right now, this snippet right now, is because as I'm perusing the internet, I noticed that it turns out Bolton, in talking about President Trump's attempted coup, he wants to soften it. So during his interview with Jake Tapper, he's saying things like, no, don't overreact to what Donald Trump did. Let's remember, quite a few people died as these assassins, as these insurrectionists, as the attempted coups tried to overthrow the government, right? Many of them, we had 5 or more people die. But what he's attempting to do is make sure it is not equated to a coup. He doesn't want us to think of Donald Trump effecting a coup. So in order to absolve Donald Trump of a coup and just let it seem like Donald Q is just doing a little bad thing here or there, he takes responsibility and he says, look, I have attempted to effect coups not in America, but in other countries. And when it is asked, other countries? What are you talking about? Oh, well, we attempted a coup in Venezuela, but it wasn't very successful. I want you to listen to this. And then after you listen to this, I'm going to play an interview that I did with the Colombian ambassador during those same times, where I asked the ambassador if he was working with the United States in El Grupo de Lima. That was a group of Latin American countries trying to take care of the Venezuelan problem. And he denied to me, the Colombian ambassador, oh, America has nothing to do with it. Of course, I asked him about a particular American degenerate foreign policy guy, and it turns out, well, let's go ahead and listen to Bolton first. Fess up, confess to having attempted a coup, and then we'll take it on the other side. Because the way these nasty folks work, it's amazing. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
This is not a new phenomenon, but the president would go to experts, even people who were loyal to him, like Pat Cipollone. If you're the White House counsel in November 2020, you have been loyal to Donald Trump. Get advice, not listen to the advice, not heed the advice, and keep shopping around until you end up with this group of misfits with like Michael Flynn and Sidney Powell. Is he just not capable of hearing no?
Well, when it comes to advantage, the answer is he doesn't listen to anybody else. But I think it's also important to understand, while nothing Donald Trump did after the election in connection with the lie about the election fraud, none of it is defensible. None of it is defensible. It's also a mistake, as some people have said, including on the committee, the commentators, that somehow this was a carefully planned coup d'etat aimed at the Constitution.
To be fair, with all due respect, one doesn't have to be brilliant to attempt a coup.
I disagree with that. As somebody who has helped plan coup d'etat, not here, but other places, it takes a lot of work, and that's not what he did. It was just stumbling around from one idea to another. Ultimately, he did unleash the rioters at the Capitol. As to that, there's no doubt.
You cited your expertise having planned coups.
I'm not going to get into the specifics, but
successful coups?
Well, I wrote about Venezuela in the book, and it turned out not to be successful. Not that we had all that much to do with it, but I saw what it took for an opposition to try and overturn an illegally elected president, and they failed. The notion that Donald Trump was half as competent as the Venezuelan opposition is laughable.
Donald Trump was half as competent as the Venezuelans. He says it's laughable. But I tell you what, I interviewed the Colombian ambassador a few years ago, during that time, during when Donald Trump was president. And we knew that the Americans were trying then to do something to overthrow the Venezuelan government. We knew it. There was no doubt in my mind. So I interviewed, of course I had to be, this was the ambassador from Colombia to the United States. So of course I had to be a bit differential, but I want you to listen to this interview and then we'll go ahead and take it on the other side, because this guy, for all practical purposes, he lied to me because he knew. Check it out and we'll take it on the other side.
I will attest to that.
Yes, Sam.
And given that I'm originally from Central America as well, Panama, I think we kind of share that same history. And by the way, I could also be considered an honorary Colombian because Panama was once the province of Colombia.
Yes, sir. Roosevelt took that away from us.
Oh, well, I did. I wasn't sure if I was going to bring that up about the gunboat in front of Colon or not, but I guess since you brought it up. But anyway.
It was called gunboat diplomacy for something.
It was called gunboat diplomacy for a reason. Anyway, we got the canal and you got an ally. But anyhow.
We got great friends and we have a great relation with Panama.
Absolutely. So, okay, let's move this on a bit to Venezuela. I don't know where you're going to stand on Venezuela, but I definitely have some issues that I'd like to discuss with you on that particularly. First of all, express to me in your own words how you see the Venezuelan situation, not necessarily concentrating on Maduro, but Venezuela as a country.
The biggest humanitarian crisis in the world right now, the biggest refugee crisis in the world right now, the biggest tragedy, economic tragedy probably in the world, other than North Korea, with continental dimension. For all of you U.S. listeners of this program, you have your backyard on fire. This is probably the biggest crisis the U.S., the continent has had in its history, humanitarian crisis. And I think what we are working together, the countries from the Grupo de Lima, which is a Latin American country that got together to solve this problem.
Right.
With the U.S., it's a task at hand that needs to be performed because otherwise the U.S., Colombia, and the region can have a crisis like Somalia.
Maybe the point of compromise is not requiring Maduro to step down, but requiring organized elections that are actually viewed from the external.
Yes.
But right now, what we have as a concern is Donald Trump has just submitted a budget where he's asking for $500 million to support democracy at whatever cost in Venezuela.
No, look.
And that would be a concern if you were the president of Venezuela or the president of Colombia. If you heard that there is a superpower putting that kind of money behind having some effect in your country, I think that would create some issues, right?
If I were Maduro, I would be very worried.
Yeah.
And not only because of that, because he destroyed his country, because he is politically surrounded, and because the only way he can stay in power is with the Cuban thugs that he has around him. So yes, that for other reasons. And what we are doing as Colombians and as Latin Americans, for the first time in history, is starting our diplomacy to create a new scenario for Venezuela. Remember, the Grupo de Lima, the U.S. is not part of the Grupo de Lima. And it was the Grupo de Lima that recognized the Assembly as the only democratic institution left in Venezuela. It was the Grupo de Lima that created the scenario of putting an alternative. And that's the Latin American countries deciding the future of a country and helping decide the future of a country without the U.S. interference.
One question, I don't remember his name right now, the envoy that Donald Trump just assigned to Latin America, who was once convicted.
Elliot Abrams.
Has he met with anybody from the Grupo de Lima?
Yes, he has met with all of us. I met him last week.
And that is my concern.
What?
In as much as the Grupo de Lima is todos somos Latinoamericanos, all Latin Americans, that they would meet, I think it's problematic.
Working with the U.S. as partners to get this problem solved diplomatically, hopefully solved peacefully, and hopefully to make Venezuela return to a democratic scenario. I don't think you have seen that happening in Latin America ever. Before, it used to be a coup d'etat. Sometimes from the left, they say, oh, the American invasion. Really? The only country that's right now being invaded is Venezuela by the more than 20,000 Cubans that they have there.
Are there really 20,000 Cubans?
There are doctors, between doctors and military personnel.
You see how that becomes a problem when you say there are doctors that are Cuban, and that's included in the 20,000, right?
Oh yeah, no, because they indoctrinate, because they create. So it's a civilian military invasion, but the invasion of the military is absolutely real. We are trying to get Venezuela back on track in a democratic scenario. That's what we're trying. We're trying to do it peacefully through a diplomatic blockade and with economic sanctions from the Latin American countries and from the U.S. too, and we hope we'll be successful.
I am so happy that you gave this interview. But I mean, would you say, and I think we can all conclude that what we really are saying here is we would love to have most, if not all countries, Latin America and beyond, be capitalist democracies. Is that correct?
Democracies.
Capitalist.
Real democracies.
Okay.
Democracies. Whatever model of economic decision making they decide, well, that's for the people to decide. If they decide and firmly decide and they that want to go this way or the other, that's their decision.
Right.
That's their decision. That's a decision that they have to take. The problem is when you take that decision away from the hands of the citizens. That's what's happened in Venezuela. That's what is happening in Nicaragua, and those type of decisions, when the powerful government or a president or a head of state takes away the independence of powers, you create that type of supposedly democratic country, but it's just a facade for a dictatorship.
Ambassador Francisco Santos, I hope I'll get a chance to talk to you, maybe, who knows, in a different position later on in life. And I hope that as a member of the Grupo de Lima, as you go back, you remember those words: a democracy with whatever economic system they decide that they want to have, to ensure that everybody in that country has equal access to success.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thank you. And
it's a pleasure speaking to you.
Have a good day.
So that interview was a few. Now, like I said, Bolton today admits that during that time that I was interviewing the ambassador to Colombia, who had formed together these Latin American countries a group called El Grupo de Lima, that was supposedly the entire only run by Latin American countries, so that nobody would make the mistake and believe that it was influenced by America wanting to overthrow Maduro, you know, the successor to Chavez. And by the way, I'm not a Maduro fan. I was a Chavez fan because of his policies and the success thereof before it was sabotaged by the plutocracy in Venezuela by creating false shortages, etc. But that's for another time. But during that interview, I did several things. I asked him if it shouldn't be concerning that the United States budgeted $500 million for creating democracy in Venezuela and the support of Guaido. That was numero uno. Numero dos, I also asked him, hey, aren't what you're saying America is really attempting to do is to create capitalist democracies, and if anybody deviates from capitalist democracy, it is a problem? Oh no, he says. Oh no, we just want democracies, but whatever economic system they want in that democracy should be okay. Here's the kicker. That's not true. Name all the countries that he has a problem with. Nicaragua, which we malign because it's a leftist government. Venezuela, which we malign because it's a leftist government. Likely it's going to be also Chile. All these people have just elected leftist government. When Brazil re-elects Lula, or not re-elects, but put Lula back into power, I imagine it's going to be, oh, we don't like Lula either. All these guys that are saying we are not going to allow an economic system that pilfers, right? Like I said, for those of you who are just coming in now, earlier I mentioned that Venezuela is one of the richest countries in the world when you count its natural resources and divide it by the number of people living in the country. It's one of the richest countries in the world. The only thing that is holding back Venezuela right? Or all the external powers and the corruption. I'm not gonna give Maduro a break, okay? But what's holding them back is the fight between the capitalists and the democratic socialists, and the people that are left holding the bag, as always, are the people. The thing is, when Chavez started his revolución, what is it called? Boliviano. He started talking, because again, like I said, Venezuela is one of the richest countries in the area, right? Given its natural resources, and he was going to monetize his resources in such a manner that his country would have been so rich, right, that they could create their bank. They were trying to create the United States of South America and all that kind of stuff. That's a threat to the Western countries that consider all those guys third world. They were not going to be allowed to leave the particular structure that we know here, which is pilfering. I mean, even here in America, we just pilfer our own a little bit better because we're richer. We took advantage of a sect of people to let them work very hard to build up this country so that another sect can have. I mean, if you understand the concepts of how wealth is created in this capitalist system, you will have to say, "Oh, Egberto, I understand every time you talk about antiseptic slavery, what you're talking about." But that ambassador lied to me when he said America had nothing to do with the attempted overthrow of Maduro. We know that they attempted to overthrow Chavez 2 different times. We know that. We absolutely know that they attempted to overthrow Chavez twice. Even though under Chavez, poverty sunk. But again, the plutocracy in that country would not allow, I like the joke, right? Because even good progressive Americans right here, whenever I talk about Venezuela, they get irate because they have been taught so badly. Look at how badly Venezuela is. Look at what it's doing to its people. Look at all its people that are migrated to Colombia or coming to the United States. You talk to those Venezuelans who migrated here, they'll talk just like my progressive Americans who hate what the government is doing, because it was all a manufactured disaster. And nobody wants a disaster. Nobody wants a disaster. But you ask yourself the question that I even asked the question here in America. To whom does the resources belong? In America, we are rich enough that even as a multi-billionaires who are, Americans don't understand what wealth looks like, right? They don't understand how rich the rich is in this country, right? Because we're doing fairly well. Even the ones that are not doing very well, to us, it looks like good money, not understanding the actual wealth of the people here. Now, when you are at a different scale, like you're in Venezuela or Nicaragua or these other places, you can actually see, the delta is a lot less, so poverty looks real bad. But it is no different. We don't control the natural resources on our federal lands. The mining companies do, and then their profits don't go to the average American citizen. They doesn't even go to pay a hell of a lot of taxes on it. So they're digging up the land, they're polluting the land, they're doing all these things with the land. And just a few people profit from it. And then later on, they always talk about, how are we going to pay for it? People, we have to be very cognizant of how things work. So, this went from Bolton talking about fessing up to the attempted coup in Venezuela, to me representing an interview that I did with the Ambassador Santos from Colombia a couple of years ago, when they were attempting to overthrow the government with El Grupo de Lima, to now trying to express it in a form that all of us understand, even here in America. And you know, we're getting there. The pilfer is getting so bad in America now because, you know, there's never enough for that capitalist class. There is never enough. When they talk about growth, they want to grow at 10%, 15%, 20% every year. Not admitting to you that you cannot grow at that rate, that few of you that grow at that rate, that is taken away from everybody else. And if you're growing at that rate, everybody else is growing at a lower rate. And those disparities eventually create friction. And those frictions are manifested in sort of what we saw here. So those of you who listen to Politics Done Right, know one thing. I make sure to involve all sides because the reality is we are all on the same side. They'd like you to believe that all those insurrectionists are bad folks, right? And the good ones knew not to create an insurrection. But I have one caveat for you guys. Don't make the insurrectionists your enemies. They were snowed. You listen to that. You listen to what we heard today in the January 6th hearings. What you heard was that poor, scared man who invaded the Capitol as well. But he just thought he was doing what he needed to do. All the prejudices and everything that they taught this guy, it all emerged and he became an insurrectionist. And then those of us who knew better, we are ready to attack that insurrectionist, that lowly guy. All of those 4 or 5 or 800 people that are going to go to jail because they were insurrectionists. I don't hate those guys. They are not the enemy. The enemy is the system. The enemy is the system that put the hate in people's heart. The enemy is the system that ensures they hate you, you hate them, and the other hate the other. Because that's the only way a system that supports the wealthy and rich, supports a few, the only way we can stand for that is if we hate each other and fight among each other. If I could get that inculcated into people's minds, we would get together. You know my phrase, we'll unite Appalachia, the ghettos, and the barrios. It's a stereotype, but you get what I mean. All the same problems in different hues. All the same problems in different hues that need solving. But we can't solve them because those few on the top that controls our media, those few on the top that controls just about every part of our life, we have them keeping us fighting each other instead of fighting whom needs to be fought, which is just a small segment of society. So folks, let's realize that attack or that attempted coup that failed on Venezuela is an attempted coup that continues over and over and over again. And while it's an attempted coup in Venezuela, it's a continuum. It's a coup of continuity of the pilfer of Americans right here in the United States. Let's remember that. And with that, I will close out our nighttime Politics Done Right. This is an impromptu Politics Done Right that came about after listening to John Bolton on CNN. If you like what you're seeing, please give us a thumbs up. If you are on YouTube, I ask you so kindly, give me a thumbs up. If you are on Facebook, give me a like. If you're on Twitch, do what you can. If you are on Twitter, please remember to just go ahead and follow Egberto Willies on Twitter. That again is Egberto Willies on Twitter. And for now, I will be calling it one more session till we meet again. By the way, please tune in every day at 3 p.m. Central is the official Politics Done Right show. Every day at 3 p.m. Central, you get the full Politics Done Right show. Please don't forget to set your timers because we're going to have this on the show tomorrow and many other things. And if drop me a line, let me know if there are any questions you want me to answer, ask, or whatever. We'll talk about it. But give me that thumbs up, give me that like, make sure that this algorithm continue to move. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willis. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.